Thomas.
Good evening.
Good evening.
There we go.
Are you in Zürich at the moment?
I am indeed, yes.
Oh, okay.
Course,
First of all, is it right that you are from South Africa?
Yes, I am from lovely Cape Town.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah. As you can hear, I'm too.
Yes, I was just about to ask.
I left the country in 2001 and I just can't lose the accent. Yeah. I lived in the UK for 14 years and my children sound so British, but then I come with this real South African accent.
Yeah.
But anyway, how long have you been in Zurich now?
So I left South Africa sort of August 2014, and I also lived in the UK for 4 years, where I did postgraduate studies. And I've been in Zurich since September 2018.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. A lovely city to be in, I think.
Yes, it is indeed. Yeah. Very, very, very kind of almost perfect in a way.
I love Switzerland. It's a beautiful country. Yeah. Tell me a little bit to how you started in music. And did you start in Cape Town?
So, I mean, I guess as with a lot of musicians, we start as children with a variety of things. And from a very young age, I had music education. One could say I started at the age around 5 or so. I played a variety of instruments and always sang in school choirs and also in one.
Sorry, just because I'm from South Africa and I know the country. Where did you grow up in? What city did you grow up?
Yeah, it's in the northern suburbs of Cape Town in Belleville.
Okay, I know Belleville very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to shop at Tiger Valley.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my hometown.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So it all started really very young, and during my school years, I continued with that. In high school, I had music as a subject.
So, what instrument did you play?
As a young child, I did piano. At some stage, I did trumpet, recorder, as many young kids would do. I sang in choirs, and then I changed over to playing saxophone, actually.
Wow.
And this became my main instrument until I left high school, purely just because I absolutely love jazz. And not that I ever play jazz, but that wasn't the point, really.
Yeah, but sorry, do you come from a musical family? Your parents, are they musicians?
No, not at all. No, I'm really the odd one out, I must say. Yeah. Yeah, and I left high school and I did not go and study music. I studied theology for a year. Then I changed over from that to a music technology degree, which I did not finish. And I left university and then I went back until I finished undergrad in music with singing as my major. I always thought, well, as a younger person, I thought that if you make the thing that you love most in your life your work, you'll lose the love for it. And actually, it's really not that way, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ended up with singing. Yeah.
But and also in South Africa, would I say it is a problem that there's not a lot of opportunities for artists, for singers and ballet dancers. So did that stop you in a way, or did it worry you in a way that you thought, but what will I do afterwards? And also then, of course, the South African attitude, or maybe the attitude is because there's no future really
Mm.
for the arts in South Africa.
It's an interesting thing. I think during my time as a music student, I never really thought much about that.
Okay.
I realized that, yes, one needs to think about the future and so forth, but it was more about just sort of becoming better at my craft at that stage, at least, because I love it so. I do understand that, of course, as a singer specifically in South Africa, there's basically only really one opera company left that's up and running, and that's in Cape Town. There are smaller ones here and there, but Cape Town mostly. And I mean, it's a small pond, so you can't expect to give work to everyone. And my decision to move to the UK did not come out of myself, really. I met yet another fellow South African that's based in the UK. Well, she was born in South Africa but raised in the UK, and she lives there. Her name is Sally Burgess. And a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful mezzo. And she doesn't sing anymore, but I met her at a workshop that was done in South Africa. And her husband and herself, they encouraged me to come visit them in the UK to see whether I might like it, and they'll introduce me to some teachers at the college, at the Royal College where I studied. And that's really how that started. So for me, I probably would have ended up doing something else, but trying to perform some liederabends or concerts or things in South Africa if possible. But I think I never really thought much further than that until the door was open for me to leave South Africa. And even then it was still quite unreal what the possibilities are really as a singer.
How did your family react to that you were going to leave, or that you have to pursue your dream somewhere else?
Well, I mean, I do come from, I would say, a rather typical Afrikaans family, and in the sense that, folk and fatherland, and you shouldn't just leave for no reason.
I ken dit baie goed.
So, but I've never in my life did my family not support the fact that I'm musically inclined. So when I said that I wanted to leave, at first, I think, including myself, we thought that it would be a temporary thing. I would leave, study, and come back and do something. But as time went by, and I did 3 postgraduate qualifications in London, and as sort of one after the other, I reached a point where I was like, well, there's no turning back now. There's no going back unless there's really nothing else for me left in Europe. And my folks said, they realized that there is not really a future for you in South Africa as a performer. So we understand, hard as it may be. Yeah. So I wouldn't say that it was met with a lot of negativity or sort of, I wouldn't say that, but there was always this kind of sense of, it's a pity that you have to leave, which still is. I miss home, I must say.
Of course. Yeah, I do too. No, I do too.
Yeah.
It's the same in the ballet world, because 2 of my children are ballet dancers, and it's also, you cannot really give up here what you can get there. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
So then you were in Zurich when the first lockdown came, and how did you experience that? What were your thoughts at that time?
I actually remember this very well. It was Friday, the 13th of March.
Okay, yeah.
And we were, at that stage, I was still a part of the opera studio. And one performance of La Bohème had been cancelled the previous evening due to people being ill, but no one really understood at that stage really what it meant. And all of a sudden, rumors started like wildfire. And so we went, we bought some drinks, we sat by the lake, and we waited for the emails to come to say what will happen. And even in that moment, I think for us, it was a thing of, it's going to be a week, it's going to be a month, maybe. Maybe they'll reduce audience members so we can have a little bit more space or something like this. But none of us ever expected it to last this long. No one, absolutely no one. And in the beginning, we were, I mean, me and my flatmate, who actually was gone for a long time, he was in Poland. He left for the weekend and he couldn't come back. It was quite. He's from Poland, I have to say, so he could be with family. But being isolated in the apartment purely just because of uncertainty and a reasonable amount of fear of what this thing might be, or because I didn't know. None of us really understood.
This person that you said got ill, was it the virus that you talked about, somebody that got ill in the theater or in the theater?
Yes, and it was, it was the virus. Actually, it was, I think 3 or 4 of the cast members that were ill, and they were ill for quite some time. And yes, it was the coronavirus. At that stage, they kept it quite hush because, again, no one really understood what was going on completely.
Yeah.
No one died, luckily, I have to say. But it was, it was quite a time of a lot of uncertainty. I must say that I'm unbelievably lucky in a way, because I went directly from finishing up 2 years in the studio into joining the ensemble at the Opera House here in a job. So with regards to job security and having some sort of income, it's a huge amount of gratitude for that, because so many of my colleagues and friends are having a horrible time trying to make ends meet.
Yeah, that I've heard so many times, you know, and so many stories also. But you were alone in your apartment.
Yes, for some months I spent time alone. My flatmate at the time, and like I said, he was in Poland, so it was strange. To be honest, when I went to the store, it was masks on, gloves on, all sorts, you know, carrying disinfectant around and all this, which now is pretty normal, I guess. But it was really a feeling of popping out, getting what you need, and rushing back home so that you have as little contact with the world as possible. I started having a lot of time to connect with people that I've not spoken to in a long time. Zoom became a wonderful tool, to be honest. I joined a lot of conference groups, let's say, where musicians were supporting one another, talking about the problems, and also trying to find ways to encourage one another to keep going, or find some creative outlet to let out of all of these sort of feelings of anxiety and worries of finances and so forth. So there's a lot happening. So to me, I wouldn't say that I felt bored or that there was nothing to do. Luckily in Switzerland, after a bit of time, you know, we realized that it's actually okay. You can go out, you can go for a walk, you can do your thing, just be safe. And I did. I started doing a lot of hiking, and I picked up photography as a hobby.
Really? Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Many did, or many do.
Yeah.
And also painting, and this is also very interesting to see how artists now did other things that you know, is a way of also expressing and creating.
Yes.
Did you find it difficult to motivate yourself to, say, sing, or was it something just part of your routine?
I still had online coachings. So I like we are now on Zoom or Skype or even on WhatsApp or Facebook. I had coachings from time to time, purely because in that stage I still thought this is all just temporary. We're going to go back to normal soon. You know, next season it will be fine. You know, come September we're going to take this on, which to a certain extent here in Zurich happened. We did work. My first production of this season as a Pergolesi opera called L'Olympiade. It was this amazing concept of a film documentary mixed with the music of Pergolesi. Is wonderful.
Oh, wow.
And we did it up until the very last rehearsal before the opening night, and then everything was stopped again. Which was such a pity, because it would have been the first production to have the orchestra back in the pit, and all with distance and all this. But so I think for me at least, it didn't feel it didn't feel that much different. I think now, second time around for me is much harder.
Oh,
keep motivation
really?
going. Yes.
In what sense?
For me, it was at the beginning of the season, we felt reinvigorated to work and to take on this and to bring something to our audiences, because that's what we do, right? So, and to have a sense of purpose again. And when it was announced that we would be closed, or we will be closing down again, it felt horrible, to be honest. And even though I'm still at an opera house and still having some sort of income here, that does not necessarily equate to what we need, to giving me and my other colleagues what we need to be motivated and to be, one could say, in the mood. That's a horrible way of saying it, but it's what it is.
I understand. Yeah.
And we were so hoping that it wouldn't go up until Easter, at least. And I still have a funny suspicion that we won't really be doing much for the rest of the season anyway. And it does raise the question, really, for me personally, what my value is as a musician in this time, and whether singing is everything or not.
Do you find that you think about this fact that do you want to be a musician? Is that for you now a question and something you reconsider, or do you definitely know that you want to be a musician?
I think for as long as I am allowed by fate to do this, I will do it. I did, however, realize that there are so much more to life than this. I often think that myself and many of my colleagues, we feel that as an opera singer, it becomes your identity, and it becomes your whole being. You live around what you do. And to an extent it is true, because it's a kind of a lifestyle that you need to have. You need to take care, you need to be, live in a certain way. So there is a bit of that, but I think sometimes it's taken too far, and it also is heavily affecting things like mental health, and how we as musicians struggle a lot with that. So yes, of course, I've definitely been thinking about this, whether this is really what I want to do. And to be honest, yes, I absolutely love what I do, and when I have the opportunity to do it in a proper way, it's there's nothing like it. And to have an appreciative audience is probably one of the most wonderful things. So I don't think I will just leave it for no reason. However, I am thinking of what else can I do on the side, possible future ventures here or even back home in South Africa. I have I would love to own a farm back home.
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm a very typical Boeddhisian in that way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows what will happen? Yeah.
Yeah. But I've also thought about this, about the what the value, of course, and a lot of musicians talk about this fact that they don't feel valued because of the fact that they cannot do this, they cannot perform. And then there's also this conversation sometimes about the control there is over artists, that you're saying now about this pressure that you live with, and that's also the same in ballet, and of course,
Yes.
you know, pianists say the same thing. Whereas now it's sort of more, and I think also in the freelance world, where the artists now have a bit more power themselves to decide, to make decisions, and to see where they are going.
Yeah.
Do you think that could be a positive from this side, that you know, that artists now start to take control themselves rather than be dependent on an agent or on a theater or on I mean, of course you are grateful for the fact that you are you know, attached to a theater. That's always
Yes.
a good thing. But for freelance artists, for example, that they now can start thinking how they can rebuild, you know, themselves again.
I do think so. What is the saying? It is necessity is invention's mother, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's really,
yeah.
and I stand by that. You know, in all kind of contexts in life, I think yes, absolutely. The fact that things are changing is not necessarily always a bad thing. And in this case, a lot of people have lost a lot. Not just possible careers, but houses, cars, all sorts. And of course, it is change is as good as a holiday. Wow, I'm coming up with all of these cliche things,
Yeah.
but I mean, it really is
You're
like
from
that.
South Africa. You do that.
So,
That's
but
part of the culture. Yeah.
I believe it, and I mean, I live my life like this in a way that I try to keep my eye open for possibilities when things start to change.
Yeah.
And so yes, I think even though that this is a rather horrible time for many people, there's always something to be found. Yeah, and being able to take power in own hands to say, I'm making my own decisions now as to what will happen is definitely a good thing, because I do believe that I can only speak for myself and what I know of our industry, but for singers, it's really, there's really a lot to be said about the fear of not being able to belong to this kind of cosm of those who matter. So,
But I don't think it's I don't think it's only the singers, because I hear
no,
that a lot from different musicians. Yeah.
yeah. So it is hard, but I think yes, there's always good to be found. Yeah.
So I mean, we come from a country where the arts has no prominent place, and theaters, as you say, there's only really one theater, one big theater, and that's in Cape Town. So we know what it is like to live like that, where you're not exposed to this type of culture. And I've been thinking also that in South Africa, we know also that it's an exception to the rule when you're a music student, or when you go and study music. But don't you think it's very important that we now rethink the education system, not just in Europe, all over the world, that we start thinking what we are teaching our children, and that we focus also on music or arts, not just music, but also on art, and not just the sciences and maths and so on, but that we really make music and art. Well, I say music, but I mean art. A very important subject in the schools as well, so that children can first of all experience it, and also learn it, and then also develop from it, because as you know yourself, you know, the way you think has also a lot to do with the fact that you studied music. So what do you think about that, about the education?
Art in general, but more specifically music, is such a wonderful combination of everything, really, because music is a language. You have to learn mathematics to truly understand it. It has to do with physics. It has to do with biology. There is such a wonderful communication of all these different factors within music. And as a young child, you don't realize that, but as you get older and you've been studying music all along, you realize how helpful that can be when developing other parts of your life, other fields of study or so. So from my perspective, class music, at least until a certain age, should be compulsory almost, in a way, where kids, even though they might not like it, I mean, I had to do many things in school I didn't like, but that didn't stop the school system from making me do that. So, and in the end, we still benefit from it, because more so, I think even something like dance, I'm not a dancer whatsoever, but I've had experiences, and it has taught me about my own body and the way how I move, and I understand myself. And I think also art, just visual arts or graphic design, any kind of thing that you're forced to be creative, or to think a little bit different than the normal sort of squared in box like perde oogklappe kind of thing, where you go through life and you do things because that's the way that you've been taught to do it, rather than thinking for yourself. It's a bit, I guess, about learning about philosophy as well, because you do question a lot of things when you are confronted with music and art and well, anything cultural in a way. And that opens up a door or two, I'd say, into the world of philosophy, even for a young person. And I think that is such a valuable thing for young people to learn, to have a more broader view of the world, and in a sense becoming a little bit more worldly, even though you might be from the tiniest little Karoo town in South Africa. It gives you the keys to have a broader view. So absolutely, I think if ever there's a chance for me to have an influence in this, I would definitely go for it. It's such a necessity. I mean, we live in a world of capitalism, of course. So money, 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 money. And how do you make that? And, people focus on numbers and sciences and all sorts. And when it comes to what can we cut, what can we take away, how can we make schools cheaper for the government? They take away things like arts because it seems redundant, but in actual fact, it is the other way around, really. It's so utterly important.
I totally agree with you there, and I think we have to start talking about the solutions, and thinking how to get there, planting the seeds, and I think the artists have a very big role to play in this, because you understand and you can, like you explained to me now, so you can absolutely express how this feels to you and what you've experienced. So there's no better person to make this argument than an artist themselves. I find also with ballet dancers, they retire early in life, so they basically have two careers. So they say they retire at the age of 40 and they go on to start a new career. They make such a success of the second career because they have the skills. You know, they know how to motivate themselves. They have self-discipline. They can overcome disappointments, and they have this patience that they know, you know, it takes a while to get there. So those are skill sets that everybody can take advantage of, or can be used to their advantage, you know. So even like you say, even if a child only does music up to a certain age, then they've already have that development of those skills to do.
Yeah.
So, but tell me, what is your, I ask this everybody, what is their wish for when this is all over?
Wow.
How do you see the industry?
So at the moment, what is happening is, at least what I see from my friends and colleagues in different levels of career at the moment. At the moment, those who are already sort of cemented in what they're doing, and those with fame, or those in an opera house, connected to a house, they're doing okay, perhaps not as good as previously, but they're doing okay, they'll be fine. And I've also realized that the pool of freelancers being used seem to be shrinking. And this is all due to, well, variety of reasons. And my wish really is, for the future, is that powerful institutions, like even like a place where I work, the Opera House here in Zurich, is that there is less of a look at what we do in a sense of a factory creating a product, and more focus on the human touch within all of this. Now, of course, I can't say that this is happening everywhere, or that it's a negative or a positive. I don't know. I can only speak from my own experience. And what I would want to see is that people aren't just treated as another cog in the clock, another gear in the engine, however you like to see it, where, you know, you're so replaceable, it's fine. You know, the next best person will just come and do it. So you as a person, your value as an individual for us truly goes only as far as what you can produce on stage. So fine, I might be, you know, going a little bit far with that, because it's like a doctor. If you cannot perform the surgery that you've studied to do, then you become redundant. Sure, I understand this. But there must be a middle ground somewhere to be found, where this is a big wish that I have, is that there's the sense of a family and in a way of community with people, because I think it's like this in any business. It doesn't have to be just the arts. I think it's like this in any office environment as well, when there is a sense of everyone, from the boss of the building to the person who is taking care of, I don't know, replacing the bulbs. If everyone is greeted in a way that they matter equally, the productivity is better, and the product in the end is better. And it is just about having a little bit more humanity, I guess, in the end. And that would be my greatest wish.
But doesn't it come back to this control thing, where it's about the name, and it's about how much, you know? Because I spoke to a pianist in New York, and you know, also he does these little soiree concerts in the evenings, Simon Mulligan, and he also said he enjoys it because it's his choice what he plays now, you know. And I've also spoken to students, you know, who do competitions, and then they say, you know, this is this specific thing that they have to play, or you know, that it's not always what they want. And I'm also thinking in this sense that in that sense, the control that you as artists have not have the artistic choice, then that it's then the pressure put upon you to say that you have to sing this, or you have to play this for the concert because this sells tickets. And then, you know, many other things that maybe were something that you would have sung that was comes naturally to you, or that you can express yourself in a better way, but just because it's not a well-known composer, or it's not a well-known song, then you're not allowed to sing it.
Yeah. Yes, I think this is definitely something. In the opera world, there's a thing called the Fach system. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it subcategorizes all the voice types. And then a man called Kloiber wrote this book, and many opera houses in the world really, and I think it's mostly the German-speaking countries, they use this in their contracts even, saying if you say that you're a lyric tenor, for instance, you have to be able to sing boom, 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 within reason, of course.
Yeah.
And this is where the factory idea comes forward for me, because that's where sometimes you might be singing something that's good for you, but the next few weeks you have to work on something that is also under this, let's say, topic of or label of I don't know, dramatic soprano, but you're not quite comfortable with that, your voice is not very good with it, you're feeling immensely tired, but your contract says that you're a this and a that, and therefore you have to do it. And in those times, these kind of things, of course, teach us as musicians this kind of thing of discipline as well, and of finding a way to make it work, and to be persistent, and to be consistent with what we deliver. However, in the long run, that's not a good thing, because people burn out physically and emotionally, and then we make a joke about it. We say you have these singers that live in a kind of a 5 to 7 year cycle, and some have good enough techniques to be able to survive this for some years, and some just don't. And then in the end, people have massive problems with stress-related illnesses and mental health problems. And it all comes down to this kind of thing. I mean, it's not to blame that exactly for that. So yes, I think that would be another thing, is to reevaluate how all of this is done, because we are individuals, even though we are part of a collective. We are, so many of us are similar, but we are individuals still. And if we are refused the ability to live our individuality, it's like smothering a flame. Really, yeah.
Because then it's not art anymore.
No,
you know,
no.
then it's not art.
Then it becomes sterile completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also this comes back to the value, because in actual fact, if artists feel not valued, and we ask the question, but why? Could it be that they are allowing this to happen? You know, that they don't speak up, or that they don't draw the line, and that it's become a system that everybody just keeps going and doing the same thing, and nobody has the courage to say, but you know, I'm not going to allow that to happen. And maybe this time where everything came to a standstill is a time where you can start you know, saying or thinking about that, at least, you know.
Yes, absolutely. I know of certain groups that or organizations that were started in this time in France. Unison, there's one. It's not exactly like a union, but it is something like a union where for freelance and singers, for instance, in Germany there is such a thing. I know, and I know that there were some agencies and some singers working together very well to try and find solutions, especially in the beginning of all of this, to try and especially for what do you call it, unemployment insurance payouts to people, and how does one calculate how much should be paid to whom and what and where, and fighting with theaters to pay certain amounts of contracts that were supposed to happen, etc. So there are certain things like this. I know that in Switzerland, for instance, it is a little bit different. But you are right. Now is definitely a time to speak up about these things, and it has been happening sporadically over Europe, which is a wonderful thing. I think not everywhere, unfortunately, and sometimes I also feel that an individual like myself, some of my colleagues perhaps, whether it's here or at other opera houses, if we're on a Festvertrag at an opera house, that we are kind of afraid to speak out as well. Seeing that we're on contract base, and you might speak a little bit too loud, and then they might just sort of neglect to renew your contract because you're a troublemaker of sorts or so. Because this is also a reality, unfortunately. Not that anything is provable.
but it's it's the system. It's the system,
exactly.
No, that's I think this is definitely, and that a good thing that musicians pull together. I've noticed this really also now in this time, or since I started photographing artists, how many artists form ensembles and start doing things together, which is wonderful. I think it's a wonderful way of this community idea, that you are all in this together, almost. Just another thing that I want to ask you: how do you feel about artists posting, for example, singing or whatever on Facebook? They because there's sort of a two camps. So one side, people say the music shouldn't be out for free, and the other side say, well, it's for them, they enjoy doing it, and music has to be played and be out. And what is your feeling about that?
Well, it's hard to answer, honestly. I don't like live streaming. I don't like these online concerts. I don't like them because they absolutely do not give you the same experience. And I do not want this kind of thing to become a reason for less funding for the arts in the future. Because it would be very easy for a politician to say, yes, but look, you can do it for half the price by just doing it online, streaming it to the world. People pay a small amount, if even, you don't need so many millions every year, we'll give you half. And this is a natural fear for me, that this will become a norm. And I really hope it won't, because there is simply no way that you can compare a concert done and conveyed through microphones and speakers and sorts to that of a live experience in a theater or a concert hall, or it's simply not the same. There are, of course, many kinds of music that can be like this, and it's perfectly fine. But specifically something like opera or lieder, or something that you resonate, your body resonates in that theater with the frequencies that's bouncing around inside. So it's not just a thing of what's going in through your ears. It really is such a entire experience. And this is also why I think a lot of people say, yes, I absolutely love Strauss, but I don't like, for instance, Mozart. Don't say that too loud, but it's a thing, because you as a person, you resonate with certain things better, you know. And it's so for me, I don't hate the fact that people put things up. Absolutely not, because I think there is space for that. But absolutely not. It should definitely not become a replacement for what the real thing is. And it is perhaps slightly dangerous to encourage it too much, because in the end, it could be used as ammunition against. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe I'm just being a bit paranoid, but this is how I feel. I do, however, I do like the fact that in this time, for instance, that there were some streamings of certain operas here or wherever. It just feel like you as an audience member, you still have a connection to the house, you still have a connection to the theater or the concert hall, sort of as a way to remind yourself, okay, they're still there, they're not just completely gone. So, but and that's fine. But once we are allowed to perform again, we perform again, and you come to the theater.
And do you think audience members will be sort of excited to be back, or have the need to go back in the theater and see live music and live performances?
Absolutely. Last year in July, we had a short period where the Opera House here was allowed to have concerts with a maximum of 300 people in the auditorium, and there was a series of recitals with some wonderful musicians. You had to sit with your finger on the click button on the hour when they said the tickets will start to sell, because otherwise you wouldn't get a ticket. Wow. And it was the same. It was the same with when the season reopened here. People are hungry for it, and I think especially in a time where the world is in a cloud of uncertainty and there's a lot of anxiety, what better way to try and treat this than with music and with art and with anything that is going to give you the emotional experience that you need, that the soul of a human being needs to feel. And so yes, I mean, just by my experience from seeing people here in Switzerland and the conversations I have had, absolutely, I think people can't wait. And it's not just in our world. It is for those who are looking forward to the indie rock concert in the bar somewhere, or the people who are looking forward to, I don't know, a symphony concert at the Tonhalle. It's anything. People are hungry for it. Yeah, absolutely.
And I also found in Vienna that there were a lot of street performances over the summer, and a lot of students doing that you previously didn't really see. Did you notice something like that in Zurich as well?
Not really. No. No, actually, this is not a very common thing here, I think. Here and there you would see someone with an accordion, but not
professional musicians. I'm talking about now students here from the university, from the music university, playing in Stadtpark, for example.
Oh wow!
You know that you never used to see a lot of. You know, you saw the normal street buskers, but not the musicians from the university. And it was actually lovely to see them, because I sometimes think it's also then connecting to an audience in a different way, you know, when they dress down, you know, when they have jeans and t-shirts on and you know, the violin and the cello and young children. I'm always, you know, thinking of young children that can be stimulated in that way. That, I mean, I come from a small town, an industrial town, Van der Bijl Park.
Oh yeah.
You know Van der Bijl?
Yes.
So we didn't have a theater. We had the Fall Technikon. That was the hall where you know, concerts happened, but it was not like theaters, you know, like not like big theaters, and it was like just local concerts. So we never had that experience of going to a big theater, you know, and in Europe, I think people have that opportunity, and children grow up with the possibility of going there. So for me, you know, the first time I went in the Royal Opera House in England, it was a huge experience for me. You know, it was a huge thrill. So but I love when the musicians I photographed. I sometimes ask if they would play something through the window, and the instrument or so. And it you know, it was always this thing where they thought they were not rehearsed enough, or they made one, you know, scared to make a mistake or not to have it that perfect. But of course, I sometimes think also it's a good thing when it's not that perfect. You know, when you're not on in the concert hall and you just do it in the street or just through your window, it shouldn't be perfect, you know? And but the other thing that I also think about a lot, and that I realized a lot, was that the fact that the part of musician, of artists that we see is this part that you are on the stage, so you are dressed up or you're in costume, but we don't see this part, you know, where you were telling me now about how you started, and you know, there must have been times where it was difficult, or you know, you had to overcome things. And also, you know, musicians tell me that they had €2 in their purse, and then they went shopping for food. You know, and nobody realizes that when they see you on stage, you know, so in control and do this performance. But it's, you know, those things happen, that you are in those situations.
They definitely do, yes. It's not always the glitz and glams that people think.
Yes, for sure. But anyway, praat jy nog Afrikaans?
Baie. Met my familie en vriende by die huis. Absoluut, ja. Ek het hier's een van die dames in die koor in Zürich is van Pretoria af oorspronklik. En sy is getroud met 'n Switserse man hier wat Afrikaans geleer het, so wanneer ons mekaar sien, praat ons Afrikaans.
Dan praat julle Afrikaans. Okay, so 'n Switser wat Afrikaans praat. Dis baie
met so 'n bietjie van 'n Switserse Duitse twang ander.
Is dit?
Ja, ek lees graag digbundels en boeke en allerlei goed om te probeer my Afrikaans mooi en suiwer te hou, sover ek kan. En
gaan jy baie nog terug Suid-Afrika toe? Ek meen, obviously jy nou nie in hierdie jaar nie, maar
ek is huis toe eintlik. Ek het November toe alles hier weer eens toemaak. Toe sê ek nee, ek loop nou. En ek was by die huis vir 6 weke. Natuurlik, daar's reëls, daar was moeilikheid met die vlugte en dit was heeltyd kanselleer en aanskuif, en toe ek teruggekom het, moes ek 10 dae by die huis bly. Ek het my toetse laat doen, alles was in die hak. Dit was natuurlik nou 'n duurder uitstapie as wat 'n mens wil hê. Maar op die einde van die dag was dit so die moeite werd gewees om weer by die huis te wees. Amper soveel so dat ek sommer nou weer sal teruggaan as ek die kans kry.
Is dit, ja.
Ek mis dit baie. Nie die probleme nie, want daar is baie probleme. Maar die mense. En wanneer 'n mens op Kaapstad lughawe afklim en die man met jou paspoort of die vrou wat jou paspoort vir jou stamp, vir jou welkom terug heet in Suid-Afrika, dan voel 'n mens, of die geselsies wat jy aanknoop in die winkel, of dit is 'n ander tipe vriendelik. Dis 'n
Ja.
ander tipe
Ja.
en ek mis dit. Ja,
Ja.
ek mis dit baie.
Nee, ek stem met jou saam. Ek ook elke keer as ek gaan dan ja, as ek natuurlik Suid-Afrika toe gaan, weier ek om Engels te praat.
Ja.
Almal moet met my Afrikaans praat. Regtig, ek weier, want ek sê as ek in Oostenryk is, dan praat ek Duits. As ek in die winkel is, so as ek in Suid-Afrika is, wil ek Afrikaans praat. As ek in die winkel is, jy weet, en dis lekker.
Ja, mens mis dit.
Ja, kyk, ek is soos ek sê, ek is nou al uit van 2001 af, maar dit is nog steeds, jy weet, jy teruggaan en jy kuier, dis 'n ander kuier en dis 'n ander braai, jy weet.
My hart. Dit is